Good morning, Year 7. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Welcome to today's lesson on midterm break. For this lesson, you'll need a pen, your exercise book and paper, coloured pencils and pens, and a copy of the poem. Please do write the date and title Midterm Break. Do now. I would like you to list the activities you have done and have wanted to do during school breaks such as half term. Pause the video for a couple of minutes to do this now. So you may have written things such as going on holiday abroad or within the UK, meeting friends and going out for lunch, going to the cinema, spending time with families on outings, or going to a farm. So I'd like you to read the following information about Seamus Heaney. When he was 14, his 4-year-old brother Christopher was killed in a road accident, an event he would later write about in 2 poems, the first of which was Midterm Break. Why do you think the tone of the poem? What do you think the tone of the poem is going to be like? What did Heaney do during his holiday? How do you feel comparing your answers to his experiences? Pause the video to jot down your answers. Okay, so when he was 14, his 4-year-old brother Christopher was killed in a road accident, an event he would later write about in 2 poems, the first of which was Midterm Break. So in terms of the tone, it's likely to be mournful, sad, reflective, maybe angry. In his holiday, he attended his brother's funeral, dealt with his brother's death, witnessed his brother's death, and struggled with it, potentially struggled with the death. This could be something he struggled with every holiday. So how do you feel comparing your answers to this? It would personally make me feel grateful that I've never experienced that in a holiday, and guilty. The break for him was not only a gap in the school year, but also a break from the speaker's previous life to his loss of innocence and coming of age and experiencing a family death. So I'd like you to read the poem and answer the following question. What happens in the poem? I'd like to try and summarise each stanza with 1 line of explanation. What is the tone of the poem? Pause the video for 10 minutes to do this now. So what happens in the poem? The poem is describing a death of a younger sibling. It describes the way the family grieve, sadness, detachment and anger. The tone is personal, emotional, but also direct. Make notes of the answers from the following slides about what happens in the poem. So, I sat all morning in the college sick bay, counting bells, knelling classes to a close. At 2 o'clock, our neighbours drove me home. At first, we think Heaney is perhaps unwell, but he's actually been sent to the sick bay to wait for someone to collect him. In the porch, I met my father crying. He'd always taken funerals in his stride, and Big Jim Evans saying it was a hard blow. This stanza describes what he sees when he first arrives home. His father's response to his son's death. It's a bit shocking to Heaney, as his father normally copes well at funerals. The baby cooed and laughed and rocked the pram when I came in, and I was embarrassed by old men standing up to shake my hand. In this stanza, he is inside the house and describes the scene at the funeral and how he felt when people greeted him. At this point, we still don't know who died. And tell me they were sorry for my trouble. Whispers informed strangers I was the eldest, away at school, as my mother held my hand. This stanza continues to describe the scene and what people were saying at the funeral. In hers, and coughed out angry, tearless sighs. At 10 o'clock, the ambulance arrived with the corpse, stanched and bandaged by the nurses. This stanza describes the mother's feelings and then the facts about the ambulance and the body of his brother. Next morning, I went up into the room. Snowdrops and candles soothed the bedside. I saw him for the first time in 6 weeks, paler now. In this stanza, he is finally able to confront seeing the body. It's a peaceful scene. Wearing a poppy bruise on his left temple, he lay in the 4-foot box as in his cot. No gaudy scars, the bumper knocked in clear. In this stanza, he describes the injuries in the body, and we find out what caused the death. A 4-foot box, a foot for every year. In this stanza, we finally understand who he is, his younger brother, in a box as big as him. 4 years old, 1 foot for every year. Responses to death. You are now going to focus on how each person responds to the death of their family member, the mother, the father, and Heaney. Use 3 colours to highlight evidence in the text for each one. In one colour, focus on the presentation of the father. What kind of man is he? How does he react? What do you know about him? The same for the mother, and the same for Heaney. For the third one, look at the fact it's written in the first person, and consider what emotions he experiences. Pause the video for 15 minutes to do this now. So 1. Heaney's father. His father openly expresses a profound sadness. When the speaker first sees him, he is crying, even though he had always taken funerals in his stride. In other words, death doesn't usually upset the speaker's father, but he is broken down over the death of his son. With regards to the mother, she is yet another reaction. She's mad, spitting out angry, tearless sighs. She has no words to describe her feelings, and it's too painful for her to cry. In terms of Heaney himself, the speaker of the poem is deeply uncomfortable with the attention people pay to him because of the tragedy. He's embarrassed by old men standing up to shake his hand, while the speaker is awkward in the wake of the tragedy and seems afraid to reveal his emotions. It's written in the first person, so looks at the action from his viewpoint, and it makes it very personal. In terms of his emotions, he feels embarrassed, uneasy, confused, and frustrated. Analysing a stanza. Choose a stanza from the poem. Pick out a language and/or structure technique and explain the effect. Pick out a word that is significant and explain its significance. Here's an example done for you. Make sure you choose a different stanza. So I sat all morning in the college sick bay, counting bells, nailing classes to a close. At 2 o'clock, our neighbours drove me home. So it could be metaphorical. The bells could be the bells of death, regarding the news he has just heard. Makes the poem particularly emotional and sombre. Makes the reader question who it could be. Neighbours is a significant word, as it highlights the depth of his loss and feelings of isolation, as it's not his family members collecting him, but a neighbour. So pause the video for 10 minutes, do your own stanza analysis. So the last stanza, a 4-foot box, a foot for every year. The poem is emotional yet matter of fact. What's the effect of this? And why does Heaney end with this line? Pause the video for 5 minutes to jot down your ideas. So the poem gets more emotional as it progresses. It's almost as if the emotion builds up. He states the facts to perhaps begin by dealing with what happened, making sense of it, seeing the emotions of others before finally dealing with his own emotions. He ends with it because it's especially shocking and emotional. Perhaps it emulates how he feels, perhaps it reveals exactly how he's feeling at that point in time. Okay, so that's the end of today's lesson. Really well done. It's a difficult poem to read when you know what it's about, and you may need some time reflecting on your emotions, but I really wanted to do this poem with you because I think it's really important in terms of understanding how grief can affect people and understanding how to deal with difficult emotions during challenging times. So that's why I chose that poem. I hope you found it a useful lesson and thought-provoking too. So thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking to you next time.